Welcome to this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast, where we look forward to shaving every day. Welcome to episode 135 of the podcast. My name is Rick DeWeese. I'll be your host this week. All right, so this week we're going to start off with a shave of the day. Then we're going to throw in, I'm going to do something a little bit different this go around. I'm going to take the messages and letters and emails and stuff, and I'm going to kind of spread them throughout the show, just to kind of break things up a little bit. So we're going to start off with a message from Steven. Then we jump into the Friday shave of the day. Talk about a meetup that's happening in Kentucky on the 29th of May. Jump into Saturday shave of the day, and it was an eventful Saturday. I'll tell you all about that. The Sunday shave of the day. One of the things that I did on Saturday over the weekend that was so much fun was watching the show. Yeah, it was quite a show, and I actually got a chance to talk to it about my scouts, or talk to it with my scouts about the show. One thing, it kind of goes hand in hand with the scout motto of being prepared. It's called, when you go in somewhere, have an exit strategy. Anyhow, you're going to have to listen to that to find out what that's all about. Monday's shave of the day, throw in a message from Bob. Tuesday's shave of the day, Vietnamese coffee in the Phin filter, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Wednesday's shave of the day, and then, yeah, it is an interesting time, isn't it? We'll talk about that. It's not what you're going to think right off the bat, but we'll get to it eventually. Anyhow, that's the show this week. Hopefully you've had a good week. I know I have, and it's been a lot of fun playing around with an old razor, and even tried to play around with an old brush. Yeah. Anyhow, that's the show this week. Let's get on with this thing. So today, I used a couple of items that I hadn't used before. One's new, one's been around a while, but I haven't used it. Okay, so the first thing that I did was I soaked up a different brush. Yes, I know, it's fantastic. I'm not using the 1305. Oh my gosh, the whole world is coming to an end. Well, I still soaked up a boar brush. But in fact, it is an old, as far as I can tell. I've been trying to figure out what this brush is for a long, long time. And from what I can tell, the brush is in fact an Avon brush. It is a long, thin-handled plastic Avon brush. And it looks very, very nice. I mean, they did a really good job. And it also looks like somebody has either replaced the original knot or put the knot back in with epoxy. And it looks to be an old boar knot. Okay. So with that said, the knot needs to be replaced because, well, the knot sucks. There's no two ways about it. The knot is just bad. It's old. It's not very high quality. It's got a lot of broken bristles in it. It is rough. It is very scratchy. It needs replaced. So I'll have to get around to doing that. But the thing is that I have to figure out how to hold the handle, if you will, securely and in such a position that I can drill out the old knot or get the old knot out and open that up just a little bit, because I'd like to put just a little bit bigger knot in it. And quite honestly, I'm thinking synthetic. Just because. So anyhow, I did use it. Now, the handle, that was really the intriguing part. I wanted to try it out. You know, we're used to brush handles that are kind of short and stubby and, you know, kind of fit between our fingers and the palm of our hand there. And, you know, I mean, there's a certain hold that you have on a brush typically. And you can't do that with this because it's got a long handle. I mean, the handle on the brush is longer than the handle on the razor. So I wanted to try that just to see, okay, is this something that is awkward? Is it something that's annoying? Is it, you know, is it usable? Is it comfortable? What what is the score here? And it turned out to be, well, not half bad. Didn't have any issues with it. I actually kind of enjoyed it. It was, it wasn't bad. It didn't get in the way. It wasn't annoying. I kind of enjoyed it. So, I think that handle is going to be, I'll figure out how to resurrect that thing and put a new knot in it. And, we'll do something with it. But anyhow, it was good because I wanted to at least try it. So the razor that I was using is a new razor for me. Bought it off of eBay. If you recall, a couple of weeks ago, I was using a Schick G model. Pretty sure it was a G3. But the razor that I picked up off of eBay is in fact older than that. It is an E model. It is an E3. And the E models were supposed to be just a little bit more aggressive than the Gs. And yes, indeed, at least that's what I read. And yes, indeed, it was. I felt a lot more blade in today's shave. Used some Katie's Bubbles Le Piment de Vie, LPV. And quite honestly, and it's due to the brush, I soaked up the brush and everything and bowl lathered and everything went well there. But when I applied lather to face, there was a distinct brush smell. And, kind of overpowered or overshadowed at least the LPV. So I didn't get full enjoyment of the LPV, which was just a tad annoying. But regardless of that, the LPV lather, is a good lather, and it's a good performing soap. And typically, if there are problems with the shave and you're using Katie's Bubbles soaps, it's probably not the soap that's causing the issue. So the shave was, it wasn't harsh. It was aggressive. Could definitely feel the blade. Definitely had more of a blade feel to it. But it was a very good shave. It really was. I mean, just very, very nice. Didn't have any issues. Didn't do a touch-up, just 3 passes. And didn't really, got to socially acceptable in a heartbeat. And, you could probably do just a single pass with the grain shave with an injector razor and be socially acceptable and walk out of the house just fine. I mean, it's they're that efficient. I mean, it really is good. But the razor is just a bit more aggressive. I would say, on a fat boy scale, I'd put it up at about a 7, and the Schick G, would probably be about a 4. Not quite a 5, but not quite a 3 either. So we'll call that a 4. So, there it is on the fat boy scale. Anyhow, the other thing is with this injector, it was grungy when I got it. And so because of that, I ended up taking it apart, essentially, and learning a little bit there. Yeah, they're not nice to take apart, and things bend, and you got to put things back in place, and it's just, I wouldn't recommend it. But, there you go. It was a $5 injector razor, and sometimes you say, well, I'll go ahead and give this a shot, and if it doesn't work out, okay, great. So one of the questions that I have is, all right, I need to get one that's maybe in a little bit better shape to find out, all right, is it really the razor that is a touch more aggressive, or is me bending and moving and everything else, all the components of it? Now, granted, I didn't move anything in the head. It's the head geometry didn't move, but, well, you never know. I don't believe I did. But if somebody's willing to make that argument, I'm probably willing to maybe at least, humor the idea anyhow. But I don't think I did. Anyhow, took it apart, cleaned it up. I've got a bunch of pictures about that, and I'll do a quick segment on that thing and how these things are put together in case anybody ever wants to know. And, yeah, overall, good shave of the day. Following the Avon theme, since I'd used an Avon brush, I went ahead and used Avon Spicy in one of the decorative decanters of old. And, yeah, good stuff. All in all, hopefully it'll be a good day just to go along with it. I got a message from Steven on Facebook Messenger. The situation you have with using one side of your DE razor, I've been told I do the same. I've started making shave videos. Someone made a comment, but I was unaware. So I use one side, flip it, shave again, then rinse, then repeat again. That way you are guaranteed to be equally using both sides. See if it works for you. One thing I hate about your podcast is when it ends. All the best. Well, thank you, Stephen. I greatly appreciate it. I will try that because one of the things that I've noticed when I use DEs is like if I, usually when I shave, and I do it the same with just about every razor that I do, is that there are times when instead of taking a stroke and rinsing or taking two strokes and rinsing, I'll do like the whole cheek, for example, and then rinse, and then I'll do the other cheek and rinse. I'm only rinsing 4 or 5 times during the whole shave, and so that's one of the things I talk about in today's podcast is there toward the ends. I found that if I rinse more often, it can take an aggressive razor and make it, feel anyhow less so. Anyhow, great comment. I'll keep working on it as I rotate back into a double-edged razor, and we'll see what happens. You never know. Maybe I'll just go straight razor for a while. I don't know. Oh, well. Then the only rotation that I need to worry about is how many times I flip it over on the strop. Anyhow, thank you very much for the message. Well, it's a beautiful spring day out here this morning. Clear blue skies. Yeah, everything's nice. And it started off with a nice shave of the day. I used my Schick injector again, my E3 Schick injector, and changed up the brush because yesterday's experiment with the old Avon brush with the bore knot was, a dismal failure. That knot is toast. Yeah, it's in bad shape. So I'll have to fix that before I go out and do that again. Anyhow, today I used the original brush that I have had for, oh my gosh, years and years and years. It was the first brush that I ever owned. It was given to me as a present in a shaving set with a antler-handled Mach 1 razor handle, and then the little brass stand, little brass bowl, and then the brush with the badger knot on it. Now, is it a good badger knot? No. But it is a badger knot. Now, it's served me well. I mean, it kind of introduced me way back when to the idea, anyhow, of making a lather, and of course, the soap that was provided with it was probably just, a rebranded Williams or something like that. Wasn't the best soap in the world, and I replaced it one time with something else, and, it's not the best either. It's just one of those things because at the time, I didn't know what existed. I didn't know what was out there. I didn't have a clue. And, so it is what it is. It's not a bad brush, although I find that in using it now, it splays way too much. It's got virtually no backbone, and it splays just way too much. So, it's one of those things where when you first start off, you don't know those things. You don't have experience with them. Personally, I prefer my bore brushes much more. You have a lot more backbone. They don't splay as badly. Even my big Sabog Owners Club, which is about the same size physically as this Badger brush, it does a better job. It doesn't splay. It's a little bit softer, actually. Yeah, imagine that, a boar brush that is softer than a badger brush. But yes, it does happen, and it can occur. So anyhow, bloomed the LPV, the Katie's Bubbles LPV. If you're not familiar with that, Le Pommon de Vie. It's got kind of a peppery smell to it, and so tried that, and I really wanted to try a brush that wasn't quite as scrubby to see if, okay, what I'm feeling on my face, is it razor burn from the more aggressive E3 Chick Injector? Or is it a reaction to the soap? Or is it the fact that the boar brush that I used yesterday was scrubbing the off of my face? Yeah. So it was a little bit better, although I did have a little bit of sensitivity. So at this point, I'm going to switch soaps here. I'm probably going to go with the Cat A unscented that I have, just sitting around the sink, and try to find out. I may even go with a synthetic brush tomorrow, just to find out, okay, is it the razor? Is it the soap? What is causing the sensitivity? Now, keep in mind that it is spring, and I'm spending a lot more time outside. So, it could be sun exposure, it could be wind exposure, it could be a plethora of variables out there that are causing this. Don't know yet. We'll see what we come up with. Anyhow, the shave of the day with the E3 Chic. Yeah, good shave. I was very, very gentle on my passes, or at least as gentle as I could be. And the sensitivity that I felt, the majority of it was in my neck area, although there was a little bit on my cheeks, but the majority of it was in my neck area. Again, as little pressure as possible for the first and second passes while I was paying attention. And then, quite honestly, my mind drifted off to something else, and I kind of got into my, well, we'll call it bad habits of putting just a touch of pressure on in the, while I'm shaving. It's just, I don't know. I can get away with it typically, and I had a little sensitivity today. But the good news is that after the shave, BBS shave, no questions there. It was a very nice shave, and threw on some Pinot Clubman afterwards, and instantaneous burn for about a second, and then boom, gone. So yeah, it was one of those shaves, and it was good. I enjoyed it. With the exception of the irritation. The irritation was just enough to, I don't know, take the absolute, the really, really good off of it to make it just, well, pretty good. It would have been spectacular except for that, it just kind of took the edge off, I guess, to start off with an absolutely perfect square corner and, all the angles just absolutely perfect. And then you come along, you have a little irritation that just knocks the edges off, and you go, well, it's pretty good, but it's not perfect. So, anyhow, there you go. That was the shave of the day. So if you don't happen to be doing anything on May 29th, which is on a Sunday at 9 a.m. in the morning, well, if you happen to be in the Richmond, Kentucky area, zip code 40475, you can head on over to 527 Leeway Drive in Richmond, Kentucky at the Dennis and Vance Barbershop for the Kentucky Wet Shave Meetup. There's a good number of people that are going. I unfortunately will not be able to. However, I would encourage any of you guys to do so. And the Kentucky Wet Shave Meetup has a page on Facebook, and so you can look at it. And just you should be able to look under Kentucky Wet Shave Meetup. Again, it's at 527 Leeway Drive, Richmond, Kentucky, at Dennis and Vance Barbershop. And there you go. If you're not doing anything, that'd be a good way to spend a Sunday. So let's talk about Saturday's shave of the day. Saturday's shave of the day was using my 1305 Samag boar brush, and yes, the knot is still holding, so all is good there. I think I'm in good shape with it. I also used some Queen Charlotte soap, Basilica, one of my favorite scents. Reminds me of church back in the day on a holiday, with the frankincense and myrrh floating around, and of course making all the people with allergies and stuff cough, but that's okay. I also used my Case straight razor, and wanted to do that because I hadn't used a straight in a while, and just wanted to keep my hand in. And then finally finished up and did the third pass with the touch-ups with my new to me anyhow, a Schick E3, and trying to get a feel for that over this last week. So all was good. The Basilica soap, of course, lathered up very, very nicely and did a good job. Love the scent. The straight razor, it was one of those just kind of walking down memory lane kind of thing. It's been a while since I've used a straight, and it was kind of nice, comfortable. Not a big issue or anything like that. Didn't really have any problems with that. Now the third pass and the touch up with the E3. The E3 is, okay, yeah, it's an aggressive razor, and I need to change the blade out because I'm wondering if I'm feeling blade wear, but I am feeling it's a little bit aggressive. Now, of course, one of the problems is that, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to go from a straight to the E3 is because, you don't put pressure on a straight razor. You just don't. And so with that in mind, I wanted to kind of use the straight razor to calibrate my arm, if you will, to make sure that I don't put excessive pressure on my skin with the Schick E3, kind of make that transition back and forth. And yeah, lo and behold, it seemed to work better with little to no pressure. Didn't have the same kind of feel, I guess, razor burn, if you will. So all in all, it was a good shave. Finish up with some Clubman, a little slight stinging, but not too bad. And, there you go. So Saturday was an eventful day. My next door neighbor hired a tree company to come in and take down a bunch of trees on his property and clean up the dam. Now, previously, I had attempted to clean up the dam. Of course, I was doing it with a hand axe just because it was an excuse, to use a hand axe. I mean, come on. If you have an opportunity to use an axe and it's not going to kill you, I mean, why not? Now, granted, I would not want to take down a 3-foot diameter tree with an axe unless I absolutely had to. But if you're taking down, saplings and small stuff, yeah, why not? Anyhow, so the crew went and proceeded to take down a bunch of trees and clean things up on the dam and everything else. And one of the things that was fun is that we had 2 trees that had grown sideways over the pond. And there was, you could reach out there with a pole axe and cut them. The problem is that then they would be floating around in the pond and there would be no way to get them back. So I was out in the backyard working and kind of watching the show and just having a good time. And so I went over to him and I said, hey, if you want to get those last 2, I can take my canoe out and put the rope around them so that you can drag them in once you cut them. And they say, really? I said, sure. And so then one of the guys asked me, he said, I said, how you want me to tie them off? He said, well, we usually throw a bowline, make a slip bowline and, do it that way. I said, you know how to tie a bowline? I looked at him, I said, yeah. And he acted in great shock and surprise because outside of the tree industry and Boy Scouts, and maybe the climbing industry, not many people know how to tie a bowline. Now, of course, the nice thing about a bowline is it's easy to tie, it's easy to untie, which is very helpful. and it's self-securing. I mean, as you pull on it, the knot actually gets tighter. So that's why it's called a rescue knot. But it's also very good for their application. So I went out there with the canoe and threw the line over the tree where they wanted it, tied a bowline in it, and made a slip knot out of the bowline, and all was good. So we did that for those 2 trees, and they got them cut down, which is really, really nice because they needed to come out. Being right in the dam, it's the roots undercutting the dam is not necessarily a good thing. Anyhow, it was just one of those issues that I thought I'd report on because, if you don't know how to tie a bowline, it's pretty simple to do, and you need to learn how to tie it. Now, one of the things that I also said, I told these guys I was a scoutmaster when it was all said and done, and I told them, I said, yeah, this will be a good story for my kids on Monday because I oftentimes tell them to learn how to tie knots, but it's not just tying the knot. It's being able to do something useful with it, whether it's, tie a bowline so that the loop of the bowline is through the grommet on a tarp or, do something like that. Or, in this case, make a slip knot with a bowline. You got to be able to do something with it, but in order to be able to do something with it, you have to know the knot, and you have to be comfortable with it, and you have to know it well. So, and they agreed. They agreed. They said, I tie one in my sleep, and, because they do it all day long. I'm like, yeah, it's one of those useful knots, and if you know how to tie it and use it, it becomes even more useful as you start looking at different applications. So, if you don't know how to tie one, just go ahead and Google it, and, learn. It's kind of like trying to use a straight razor, except there's no cutting involved. It's one of those things where once you get that hand to do what you want it to do, and you recognize what you're looking for and or feeling for, it's really a pretty simple knot. It's an easy knot to understand. Very very much like some of the cinch knots that hold themselves in place are easy to understand. And, this one's kind of like that. Anyhow, I thought I'd report on that. Every now and then knots come in very, very handy, and most people kind of think, I'll never need to know that. But in fact, there are knots that are used in everyday life, in businesses and everything else that, pretty handy stuff. Sunday's shave of the day. Sunday was an interesting day. Sunday I shaved a little later in the morning, and I shower shaved. I shower shaved with the Schick E3 that I have, and I used my Police-On brush. And of course, I haven't picked up the Police-On brush in a while, and realized that lo and behold, even more of the finish is bubbling and needs to come off. So each time I pick that brush up, I get more and more disgusted. Not at the brush, but at the finish of the handle that they allowed to go out. Anyhow, the knot is absolutely beautiful. I mean, that synthetic knot is gorgeous, luxurious, and I love it. But the handle, I love the shape. Don't have a problem with the wood itself. It's just the finish that they put on it that is it's not real good. Anyhow, the soap that I used was once again Basilica, and I did something different this time around. Because again, I'm playing around to determine, okay, is it the razor that's harsh? Is it the blade? Is it the soap? What is it? So I used I went ahead and shaved and everything in the shower, because typically in the shower, my shaves are very, very nice, very comfortable, very smooth, no issues whatsoever. And it kind of brings out the best of all worlds. So I've got a soap that I know I don't have any reactions to. I've got a brush that is just gentle. I'm in the shower, and I have, ye old E3. So anyhow, after I get cleaned up, I proceed to shave. I actually did a 3-pass shave, which is unusual for me. Usually I do a 1 or 2 pass or 1 and a touch-up, just because that's all I need. But I did a 3-pass shave, and I tried to be as gentle as possible on all passes. And, yeah, it was a very, very nice shave. Didn't have any issues. I had one little nick at the Adam's apple, but that's because when I shave in the shower, especially this time, I shave with my eyes shut. I don't use a mirror. I just do it all by feel. Been doing that for years, so it's not like all of a sudden I've attained mystical powers. It's one of those things that I started doing way back when I was in the Navy, back with a Good News disposable, and a, thing of hand soap. It was just, yeah, I've been doing that for years. And, once you do it for a while, you don't really need a mirror. You can do most of it by feel. It's, just one of those things. Anyhow, shaved in the shower, like I said, stepped out, and except for the one little piece on the Adam's apple there, everything was good. Everything I had just a touch. I mean, just an absolute, very, very slight touch of what I would call razor burn. But other than that, it wasn't bad at all. So, yeah, good shave, and yeah, kind of a luxurious experience when it's all said and done. And that's the way you're supposed to be on a Sunday morning. Well, last weekend I took the cover off the pool, and after working it, cleaning it up, and getting it halfway decent, I went ahead and jumped in on, I jumped in the other day, but I actually stayed in for a while this Saturday. It was cold, which actually felt good because I've been doing a lot in the yard. My legs were a little stiff and everything, so a little cold therapy. 62 degrees cold. Yeah, it was a tad chilly, but it was interesting. I was standing in the water, and I was used to it on my legs, and I didn't have a problem with it on my legs. It was like no big deal. It was like, okay, no problem. But if it got into my, onto my core anywhere, yeah, then it became a bit chilly. And so it was curious. It felt very comfortable on my legs, but it was nice because I could stand there in the pool and watch the festivities going on with the guys cutting trees down at the neighbor's property there, and they pulled a chipper shredder, or a big chipper, with a dually onto the dam. And when they did that, I thought to myself, okay, that's interesting. I wonder how they're going to get that thing out of there. Because looking at it, you're thinking, yeah, this is a flat surface. Well, it's really not. It's really kind of crowned, and there's pretty much no wiggle room. And so you kind of begin to wonder, how are they going to do this? Well, lo and behold, they didn't. They got one of the wheels jacked off into the pond on the shredder, still hooked to the dually. They got it jacked into the pond, and it was like, okay, this is bad. And they really don't have any way to go forward, and they can't go back because they got the trailer up into the pond at this point. So it's like, all right, the only choice that they have now is to unhitch it from the dually and maybe jack it around the other way and try to then drive it out. Well, okay, they did that. They got the dually out of the way. They got it unhitched. They actually got it spun around, and then they dropped the whole rear end of it into the pond. And then they proceeded to jerk and tug on it with the dually to try to get it out. And the dually has absolutely nothing in the back and had no traction and would just sit there and spin. Now, I would have thought that somebody that has a business that is cutting trees, gets into some pretty remote areas, I would have thought they would have had a four-wheel drive. But no, all their vehicles are two-wheel drive. So they have nothing with any traction at all. So they got the trailer stuck with the rear end kind of sitting in the pond. The engine isn't in the pond, so that's a good thing. But the rear end, the I guess it's the chute for the shredder is in the pond. And yeah, it's just one of those things where you kind of watch the show the whole time while you're sitting around in the pool going, man, that's pretty funny. Anyhow, they ended up hooking another truck to the front end of the dually. So they got 2 trucks now, chained to this trailer, and they're trying to jerk the thing out of the pond. And they finally get it jerk free out of the pond, but the one wheel is still stuck in the pond, and the whole thing's on the bank, kind of catawampus. Okay. So then they decide to get this big bucket truck, which, this thing's like a 6,000 or something like that. I mean, the thing's huge. And they basically rope it to all three items. And so they got the bucket truck, another truck, and the dually all pulling at the same time on this shredder. They finally get it out, but it had to take them an hour and a half to 2 hours to do it. And the whole time I'm standing in a pond going, man, it's pretty wild. Oh, jeez. Yeah, it was an interesting go of things, but it does make you wonder. I mean, they had like 6 guys, and I'm thinking, okay, do they not have a winch? Do they not have a rope with a block and tackle? A block and tackle, they had enough big trees that they could have strapped to a big tree and pulled that thing right out without having any issues whatsoever. I mean, it probably would have come out pretty easily. 6 guys pulling on a rope, even if that trailer was 2,500 pounds, a couple passes through a block and tackle would have been relatively easy. So, it's one of those things where you wonder about. You wonder, you think, okay, you got all this newfangled technology, but you don't have a winch, which could have done it. You don't have a block and tackle, which is old school technology, which, well, could have done it. Really? Okay. Well, I'll just sit here and watch the show. All right, so let's talk about Monday's shave of the day. Monday's shave of the day was with my Gillette E3. I used my 1305 Samog and lathered up some Cat A soap, again, just because I know that I don't react to it, and proceeded to shave, and proceeded to, unfortunately, get a little bit of razor burn. And, that was the biggest thing. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this thing going, okay, looking at the razor, looking at it next to my G3, looking next to my J1, looking next to my other injectors, I'm looking at this thing going, there is no reason that I can discern visually, just offhand, without somebody telling me or pointing it out, there's no reason that I can visibly discern why in goodness name this thing is so aggressive feeling. There's no reason that I can sit here and get razor burn on this animal, but pick up my G1 and get hardly anything. Or pick up my J1 and get hardly anything. Or my Injectomatic and get hardly anything. In my head, I'm sitting there and I cannot understand logically why this razor is doing what it's doing. Which is just, annoying. I mean, it's annoying enough with the razor burn. Okay, I get that. But for me, the more annoying part, it kind of adds insult to injury, is the fact that I can't figure it out. So, oh well. I'm going to try changing the blade tomorrow just to see, or maybe I'll do it tonight just to see. Because if I do it tomorrow, I'll forget or something. But I'll change out the blade and see if it's a blade thing going on. And, maybe. I don't know. But, for right now, it gave me a little bit of razor burn. Now, again, it's one of those things, throw on some Clubman, stings for about 3 to 4 seconds, and poof, it's gone. So, okay, but it is definitely razor burn. And it is the razor doing it. It's not a reaction to soap. It's not a reaction to the brush. It's the razor. And, there you go. So, okay, well, maybe. Wondering if that's why they came up with the different iterations of the Schick injector. It's because people were complaining that this one had a little bit of razor burn. Maybe. Could very well be. Don't know. But, it's one of those things where you just kind of keep playing around and find something that works for you. And if you can understand it while you're doing it, well, that's bonus. Unfortunately today, no bonus. I got an email from Bob. His comment: I just wanted to share my resurgence into wet shaving after over 25 years of Philips Norelco Electric. I was suckered into Harry's ad, and for $15 I got their kit, razor blades, and shaving cream. I then added a brush, like I used in the Army, a bowl, which expanded to a scuttle, and a puck of soap. After a few months, I decided to go old school and get the Gillette Slim Adjustable that I used as a kid, and subsequently the Mercure Future. I'm having a great nostalgia moment rotating between these three and loving wet shaving again, as I did when I started shaving in the 50s, briefly. The Gillette and the Future are a lot of fun, and I get a great shave, and it's close to Harry's, but I need 15 to 20 minutes to get a good, careful, minimal nick shave with them. Harry's does give a better shave, and I can complete the shave, and I can complete the task in about 10 minutes, including cleanup. I'll continue having fun with the Gillette and Future, fine-tuning the adjustable settings, but for speed and closeness, it's Harry's. Okay, well, first off, welcome back to wet shaving, Bob. I completely understand. When you're first starting out especially, it does take a little bit of time. Now, I've gotten to the point now where I could probably, and I've been doing this a while, so, take that with a grain of salt, but I can probably do, a shave, pretty decent shave, 3 passes with a little bit of touch-up and get, in between BBS and socially acceptable in probably about 10 minutes. And that's, not rushing or anything like that. It takes, a minute or so to create a lather and do all that. And then between each pass is probably about 2 minutes or so. Touch-up is, another minute or so, and then clean up and all that. So, yeah, you're probably about 10 minutes. The thing that's deceptive about it is that you will get faster as you go. It's just like anything else. As you practice, you will get better. And, it's one of those things where you get more confident in, what the razor feels like, what the pressure on the razor feels like, how much pressure you can put on the razor without nicking yourself, without cutting yourself. What kind of angle you have with the razor, and how, what kind of angle you're using in any one space or area on your face. That comes with usage. It comes with practice. And as you get that, practice under your belt, if you will, it becomes faster, and it becomes smoother, and it becomes easier. And, it's kind of like, I'm reminded of some of the old West movies. You always saw the guy that was really, really fast on the draw, but he was also very smooth on the draw as well. And he didn't start out working at going fast. He started out working at going smooth and doing a good job, and the speed came. And that's kind of the same way it is with wet shaving. Go ahead and take a little bit of extra time, especially when you're first starting out, because you're trying the difference between a multi-blade cartridge that really is not designed to cut your skin per se. You really have to work at it to nick yourself with a cartridge razor. Whereas a double-edged razor, it is, while not, I'm not going to say it's easy, but there's not a whole lot stopping you. I guess is the easiest way to put it. It's designed in such a way that if you really want to, you can nick yourself, you can cut yourself. So there's something to keep in mind. So don't be discouraged, and by reading your email, I don't think you are. But what I wanted to tell you is that it will come, and you will get faster, and you will get it will get smoother, and it will get better, and it will get much more enjoyable at that point, because then you find that you have just a little bit of extra time to, play around with things. I also like the fact that you actually went with 2 razors, 3 razors, counting the Harry's, and you rotate amongst them all. I enjoy rotating amongst all my stuff, just because it's, mentally it keeps me on my toes. Anyhow, Bob, again, welcome back to Wet Shaving, and good to hear from you. Thanks very much for the message. So today I did what I, threatened to do, and actually I'm glad I did. I changed the blade in the old Schick E3, and yes, it was an improvement. It was a pretty drastic improvement, actually. The shave was much smoother, felt a lot better, no stinging afterwards, no razor burn or anything like that. Still had a little bit when I threw on the Pinot Clubman, but just, again, 1 second, boom, gone, done. There was no, I don't know, physical discomfort afterwards. After the shave, before the aftershave. It was nice. It was pleasant. It was good. And so changing the blade made all the difference. So I went ahead and soaked up the 1305 brush and face lathered the LPV, Katie's Bubbles, Le Piment de Vie. And I had to play around with it a little bit because it's been a while since I face lathered, and so I had to play around with it to get the consistency where I wanted it to be and get everything, at the right level of lather, if you will, and then proceeded to do a 3-pass shave. No real touch-up needed. I mean, it's a pretty good shave, and very, very happy with it. Again, the biggest thing for me is the comfort level is there. And, it's still aggressive. There were still a couple of times when I went, wow, that's got some, I was going to say bite to it, but that's not the wrong, that's the wrong connotation, because it didn't really bite, but I could definitely feel the blade. And again, looking at the thing, it's, very difficult for me to tell whether that is, blade exposure, gap, whatever. It's just, there's something in the geometry of the razor that just makes it a tad more aggressive. And, yes, it is. Anyhow, the shave of the day today, Wednesday, going to be putting together the podcast tonight. And so it's good that after a week of playing around with it and essentially complaining the last couple of days of irritating shaves and everything like that. Yes, indeed, it was, in fact, the blade. Now, the thing that strikes me as odd is that usually the injector blades last a good long time. Typically, in most of my other injectors, I can get 5, 6, 7 days without even thinking about it on an injector blade, and half the time I'm just changing them out, just because I think it's about time. So this was, I don't know, maybe a little bit different. And it might have been because I had played around with the blades and played around with the razor and stuck the blades in and out and everything else, I don't know. Could have gotten a nick or something like that on the blade. Don't know entirely, but it did strike me as just kind of, different. And sometimes differences are good. Sometimes they make you wonder and go, it reminds me of the Sesame song Street. One of these things is not like the other, and you try to figure out what it is and why. Yeah. Oh, well. Shades of the past. There you go. Although, I did enjoy the Muppets. The problem was that the Muppets that I really enjoyed was the Muppet Show, not necessarily Sesame Street. The Muppet Show with the 2 old men Muppets in the balcony at the theater, heckling. Those guys were the bomb. They really were. That was the greatest part of the whole thing, was to see what they would come up with. Just fit my personality. Oh, well, yeah. That's probably why, the ventriloquist Jeff Dunham, I've got a soft spot for Walter. Yeah, it's amazing. And, of course, I've turned into a curmudgeon, too. Wonder how that happened. I also got an email from Jeff. Trung Nguyen Vietnamese coffee. Have you tried it? Hey, Rick, I know through your blog, podcast, and Camping with the Boy Scouts that you like a great cup of coffee.
My wife and I do too, and I have just been introduced to Trung Nguyen Vietnamese coffee prepared in the traditional Phin drip brewer. As you recall, Vietnam was colonized by the French, and the French do love their coffee. The history of the Vietnamese coffee industry is here, and he provides a link, and it's the Wikipedia link for Vietnamese iced coffee. Anyhow, it continues, and we do prefer it in the iced form, but it is good hot too. The traditional method of brewing is the Phin seen here, and there is and I'll put this link in here, brewing with the Vietnamese Phin filter. It continues, and they also brew with the French press, which you already have. Yes, I do. The Phin is very inexpensive and easy to use, portable enough to take on camping trips, and only needs hot water to activate. You can find them all over the internet, and the coffee is available online or at your closest Asian market. A pound, really 500 grams, was about $6, so very reasonable. We're hooked in a good way and hope you try it if you've not already done so. Really love the show, and I love to shave too, every day. 73 is Jeff from Texas. Well, thank you there, Jeff, and greatly appreciate it. And I'll have to check that out. And yeah. He also says, P.S. If you have not seen the new Robert De Niro movie, The Intern, you might like it. Somewhat of a chick flick, but mostly a comedy. De Niro plays a 70-year-old widower looking for a new challenge and senior interns for a startup e-commerce company. He brings old-school style and smarts to the office. The millennials cannot believe he shaves every day, even on the weekends and when he doesn't have to. A great moment, because I do too. Anyhow, great email, Jeff. I'll put the links to the history of Vietnamese coffee and the Vin filter, brewing with the Vietnamese Vin filter. I'll put that on there too. And yeah, I went and looked at it on YouTube just to check it out, and yeah, good stuff. It looks like something I may have to get my hands on just to try it. Even if I don't use the Vietnamese coffee, which I may have to look around just to see if I can find, and see what I can do with it. It looks rather intriguing. Anyhow, good to hear from you, Jeff. Thank you very much for the email.
So today is Wednesday. Unlike yesterday when I thought it was Wednesday, today really is Wednesday. I don't know what I was thinking yesterday, but there you go. It was, I'm sitting there going, yeah, today's Wednesday, and it was a great shave of the day, and I'm like, I got to work and went, no, today's Tuesday. Oh, well. Today, in fact, really is Wednesday, so that's a good thing. Anyhow, today's shave of the day was, last shave of the day with the Schick E3. With the new blade in it. It is less harsh, but it still caught me a couple of times in the chin. And again, I don't know if those are because of issues that I have on my chin, or because of the blade itself, or what, or just because the thing is, well, a tad more aggressive. I'm gonna give it to it and say it's a tad more aggressive. And so I got a couple of small nicks on my chin, but no big deal. Didn't bleed or anything, just took a little bit of skin off, made a little red mark, and, well, you know, I know it's there. So, all in all, not too bad. Shaved with the 1305 boar brush and some Phoenix Artisan CAD or CAD soap, cease and desist. And I think back when I bought it, it was still how to grow a mustache, but hey, there you go. That's the one thing about soaps. You know, you can buy a soap, and it'll last a couple of years or so, and company will change names, and there you go. You got a collector's piece. It's all good. But the good news is that the shave of the day went very, very well. Now, another thing that I did that I don't usually do is usually when I shave, especially like on the first pass, I'll take a couple, 3, 4 strokes, or I'll do like half my face, and then I'll rinse the razor off. Yeah, so I'll take like, you know, do half my face, you know, the cheeks, not the neck, but the cheeks, rinse the razor off, do the other cheek, rinse the razor off, neck, one side, rinse the razor off, then neck the other side, rinse the razor off, and then I'll just kind of clean everything up around chin, nose, everything else. So I'm only rinsing my razor 4 or maybe 5 times. Now, some people would say that that's not enough. And okay, I've been doing it for a while and have not really suffered any ill effects. Don't have any issues with the razor clogging up or anything like that. So I don't know. But this time I said, well, I'm just going to try it just to see if it will help smooth this razor out. Because one of the things that I have noticed is that when I rinse my razor more frequently, in other words, I take one stroke, rinse, one stroke, rinse, one stroke, rinse, the water in the razor allows the glide and cushion to kind of come to the forefront of the lather, and the razor is, well, a little bit less, if you will, aggressive. Okay, so, and maybe it's in my head, but that's what I've noticed over time. And so I went ahead and tried that with the first pass, and it did, well, help. The problem is that because it's not my habit, I couldn't keep it up long enough, and so I didn't do it on my neck, and so my neck was faced with, well, what felt like a little bit more of an aggressive razor, and my cheeks there, on the other hand, had one that was, well, a little bit less than what it normally is, if that makes sense. And so it's just one of those things that, you know, if you do find yourself facing a razor that is a tad more aggressive, rinse your razor off more often and see if that doesn't have an impact. Now, again, for me, it's hard to do because it's not habit. It's not what I do normally. But for the little bit that I did do it, yeah, it did have a noticeable effect. It was less severe, if you will. And that's not a bad thing. So anyhow, shaving day overall is pretty good, you know. Be quite honest, and that's what I do here. I'm glad I have the razor. I'm glad I have an old E3 razor. It is a good razor for what a razor does. It's not terribly comfortable. It is a bit too aggressive, and I don't particularly like it. I mean, it's okay. It's, I'd take it out to the movies, but I'm not going to take it home to meet the parents. Okay, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's a fling. It's one of those things where, yeah, I've done it, I've tried it, but it's not going to be a daily driver. It's going to be one of these where I'm going to put up and think about it a while and say, well, maybe. And then maybe I'll use it once and go, yep, it's still the same. That's just what I remembered, and put it back up on the shelf. Because it's not going to be one of those that I go, ooh, yeah, I like that one. That's a good one. That's, smooth and sweet and just, yeah. That's not what this Schick E3 is. At least the one that I have. The one that I have is like, if you're not careful with it, it's going to kick your butt. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not overly abusive, It's not like a domestic violence situation or anything, but it is rather just, caustic, if you will, in the shave quality, I guess, just because of its aggressiveness. It wants to go in there and get the job done, and there you go. And, it's just, yeah. Anyhow, that was the shave of the day, and yeah, it's been an interesting journey with the Schick E3 with multiple blades and everything else. But at the end of the day, this particular and see, the thing is that here's the thing: you may have a Schick E3 razor that is absolutely perfect, and I would sit there and go, "Yep, you're probably right." You may have a Schick E3 that is an absolute piece of garbage, and I would probably shake my head and go, yep, you're absolutely right. First off, there's the perceptions, but because of what I did to the razor to clean it, it may have been something that I did. It may be somebody knocked it or bumped it out of alignment, or, these things are, well, a bit old. This thing is from, 35 to 47, I think it is, somewhere in that neighborhood. So, it's been around a while. Things can happen when you've been around a while. Ask me, I know. Anyhow, the point is that don't, if you happen to see an E3 and think, ooh, that's pretty, don't hesitate to buy it if the price is decent. Don't hesitate to try it, because you might find a gem. You really might. You might find a diamond in the rough. You might find a diamond. The one that I have, no, it's not a diamond. It's basically a chunk of, well, it's not a chunk of concrete. It's a chunk of granite. Yeah, it's, in the world of rocks, it's a rock. It's not necessarily, well, it's a little shiny, I guess. Maybe it has a little quartz in it, but anyhow, the point is that, with everything that we have out there in the realm of vintage razors, there are some out there that are really good. There are some out there that have been used and abused and are still really good. There are some that, well, yeah, they've had a little bit of an issue. Don't hesitate. Go ahead and give it a try. Like I said, you might find one that, first off, works really, really well for you, or secondly, works better than the one that I've got. So, don't take my word as gospel. It's just one man's opinion on what I happen to have in hand. So, sitting here waiting at a stoplight, I heard the news that apparently Facebook has been at least accused of not allowing certain things, well, shall we say, conservative things that would help the Republican Party more likely, that Facebook has not allowed these things to trend. Now, you may be thinking, oh, here we go, we're going to talk about politics. No, not at all. What I wanted to touch base on, what I found fascinating about this, is that whether it's true or not, the thing that I find fascinating is that people are willing to accept the premise. Which means, and this is what I'm thankful for, which means that people are actually waking up to the fact that they're being marketed to on all kinds of different levels. And instead of sitting there saying, no, it's not true, I'm not being duped, I'm not being marketed to, I'm not being swayed or persuaded in any one direction or to do anything or to believe anything. No, in fact, people at this point are saying, yeah, that's possible, and yeah, that's plausible, and yeah, that's probably very believable, and I'm going to believe it. So, of course, there's some that may say, well, that in and of itself is marketing. However, because of what we're talking about, it's more an indication that people are finally waking up, that people are finally understanding that the glut of marketing is huge. That, you can't look in any direction driving down a road and not see marketing, whether it's the advertisement of the security sign in someone's front yard to the fact that somebody has a business sign out, along the road. The billboard is the obvious one. Oh, well, yeah, that's marketing, but you don't recognize the fact that somebody has the political sign planted in their front yard. Well, that's marketing too, because if your neighbors are willing to support a point of view, well, maybe you should be too. Marketing even goes as far, as I've said before, as the names of the companies that created the vehicle running down the road. Why do they put their name on the back ends of the cars and trucks? Well, so that you'll see it, and so that you'll understand that, yes, in fact, it was a Ford that just drove by, and it was a Chevy that you liked. Yeah, there's marketing everywhere. Yeah, if you just take the visual, it's amazing. But then when you take the auditory, well, yeah, then it becomes everything that's on the radio, or when you get up and walk away from the television during a commercial break, the fact that they play the commercials louder just so you won't miss the marketing becomes very evident. And then you get into the combination of auditory and visual, and you see the product placement, for example, of Coca-Cola on a certain show that has talent and people singing, for example, and it becomes very recognizable as, well, that's marketing. And you go to the movies and you realize that the fact that they're driving a certain make of car almost exclusively, well, that's marketing. And you begin to understand slowly but surely that there's marketing everywhere, and after a while you become numb to it until you finally wake up and realize that the marketing that's everywhere has to, in some way, shape, or form, change your views, change the way you think about things, push you in certain directions that maybe you wouldn't have gone as easily prior to the marketing. And then when you step back and say, okay, we know the media is doing it all the time. And then you start to think, well, is your social network as well? There was a day not too long ago when there was something that was trending very, very strongly on Twitter, for example. And it became very evident that it was being deleted, or at least not talked about, because you don't go from being retweeted 900,000 times down to 400,000 times the next 15 minutes. It just doesn't happen. You know, when you have something that's been trending for 3 days, how is it that it just suddenly disappears when there's no sign of it letting up? Is there perhaps a little bit of influence going on? A little marketing, per se. Especially when it's brought to light by the very people that you're, well, maybe not tolerating well. Yeah. And now it comes out that, lo and behold, Facebook is at least accused of doing the same thing. And because it's been happening to such a great extent, and because people are looking around and seeing what the news media is doing and what the major news networks are doing in this political season to just about everybody on all sides in favor of, well, their chosen pick, it becomes much more understandable why people are starting to look at this whole thing and say, you know what? That's exactly what they're doing. They're marketing to me in multiple different ways. And then when you step back and see things like, well, I've got word of mouth that is doing very, very well for this vendor or that vendor. And you realize that, yeah, word of mouth is exceedingly powerful, and it is a form of unsolicited marketing that people do willingly, rather than somebody coming along and just saying, I don't agree with your opinion, so I'm not going to let you voice it. Big difference between those two circumstances, and I think people are starting to realize that. My oh my, it is an interesting time.
Well, that concludes this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have some suggestions or would like a topic covered, drop me an email at brushandsoapandblade@gmail.com or give me a call at 864-372-6234 or contact us on Twitter at Brush and Blade. You can also visit us at our blog, brushandsoapandblade.wordpress.com. As always, we're available on iTunes and Stitcher.